मण्डले विष्णुपत्नि नमस्तुभ्यं पादस्पर्शं क्षमस्व मे. Were most of us here last month? Maybe some of us. All of us were here pretty much. Oh. So this year Vivekji is helping us think through Maharshi Patanjali's yamas and yamas and practicing those do's and don'ts through the lens of environmentalism. So serving Mother Earth while practicing those yamas and niyamas. And today's focus is aparigraha or non-possessing. And the sequence that we're thinking of doing, that Vivekji has recorded a video for us, so there'll be short discourse, and then we have planned some meaningful dynamics for us to consider, reflections, sharing, and also dedicating a goal that would help us live non-possessing. So, and sharing reflections. So overall, that's today's plan. Kanchan, you want to show us the video?
Oh. Hari Om and greetings from Kolon. A few days ago, I was in Bengaluru facilitating a workshop on cultivating EQ for a group of financial advisors. As part of this workshop, I was facilitating a dynamics, which is minute to mind management. In this, I share how we have a supply of minutes, and then we have a demand of minutes. If the supply exceeds the demand, there's no stress. If the supply and demand are equal, there's a possibility of stress. When the supply is less than the demand, there is stress. All of this makes sense to you. You've been part of such a dynamics before. Now extrapolating this from minutes to the environment. When there is more nature than we are demanding, all is wonderful. When there's an equal nature to what we're demanding, there's a possibility for stress. When there's less nature than what we are demanding, there is stress. We all feel the stress of forest fires, the stress of rising oceans. And so our Loving Earth Sangha is a medicine. In a secular way, this could be described as a psychological first aid that we are applying for ourselves, as well as creating a system for others to be able to apply the same to themselves. Our Loving Earth Sangha has been engaged, actively engaged, for more than 36 months. In Bhagavad Gita's chapter 12, there's a series of values that is shared, and the final value is sthira, to be steady. And our Loving Earth Sangha is. In our last workshop, we had shared a video for all of you about the past 3 years, and that video is now on our YouTube channel. Please experience this again. Please share this through email, through social media, through WhatsApp. As I reflect on our 3 years together, I can't help but offer my dakshina to our team that is making Loving Earth Sangha possible. That is Aditya from New York, Zui from Albany, Praveen from Kochi, Rita from Chicago, Rupa from Monroe, Rupali from Houston, and Yaishna from Orange. In our fourth year, that is the year 2025, we are exploring a new yoga, even though it's not new, but we're coining it as a new yoga, and that is Prithvi Yoga. Karma Yoga, to unite with dedication. Bhakti Yoga, to unite with devotion. Jnana Yoga, to unite with insight. Prithvi Yoga, to unite with Prithvi, with earth. Prithvi Yoga is to make environmentalism not a hobby, but a lifestyle. Me recycling and composting, that's a hobby. But me making decisions about my profession, my relations in reference to the environment, this is Prithvi Yoga, which is our lifestyle. And that's why in 2025, we have a lifestyle tracker for everyone to analyze their lifestyle and to challenge themselves, to hold themselves accountable to making their lifestyle more united with our Prithvi. Please go to our YouTube channel to experience the past 3 years. Please go to our lifestyle tracker to experience what this year is going to be. You challenge yourself, you be accountable. As part of our Prithvi Yoga, we are going to study the yamas. Yamas in English means don'ts, what we shouldn't do, starting with us not doing at a micro level. So I have to practice, and then creating a system for these don'ts to be able to spread to a macro level. A macro level where it's not just an individual, not just a family, not just a community, but our aspiration is all of society to engage in these don'ts. The very first of the don'ts has been ahimsa. Ahimsa means non-harming. And a way to reflect on ahimsa in reference to uniting with our earth, those who have a long-term way to think and speak and act, they naturally will harm less. They will naturally renounce harming. And we had gone through the practice of harming less, renouncing ultra-processed food. And here too, there's a system to doing so because we're so enmeshed in ultra-processed food. What our schools provide, what our groceries offer, if we can shift from ultra-processed food and decrease that or renounce that to engaging in processed food, then to renounce that, to decrease that to, I had shared, buy local, make local. And local can be opened up to buy low chemical, make low chemical. We're continuing on in this month's workshop into another yama or don't at a micro level with the aspiration that this will spread to a macro level, and that is aparigraha. Aparigraha. Himsa means to harm, ahimsa means non-harming. Parigraha means to hold tightly. Aparigraha means to let go fully or non-possessing. Non-possessing. Another way to understand parigraha, or to hold on tightly, is consumerism. Consumerism. Consumerism means consuming. I'm consuming this and I'm consuming that. And particularly in Loving Earth, we're consuming the environment, and built into the word environment is me. So the more I consume the environment, the more I'm consuming me. Now, who would live like that? But in our not thinking deeply, but thinking shallowly, we are. A technique on how to practice, on how to develop aparigraha is to use fully whatever you have already consumed. Toothpaste, toothbrush, food in your fridge, clothing, furniture, everything you've already consumed. You've purchased this, you own this. Use it fully. That way, there's an inhibition to have more stuff. Having more stuff means I'm processing our earth to use fully. And then when you need more, to buy that which is low chemical, that is more natural. This is very much a strategy of increasing quality to decrease quantity. I am very happy to be part of our Loving Earth Sangha. I hope you're feeling the same way. And I look forward to us populating our lifestyle tracker and us following through with this. We'll keep building, non-harming, non-possessing, and to go further. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Hariom, everyone. So as Vikji just explained, Aparigraha, or non-possessiveness, teaches us to take only what we need and to release our attachment to excess, to use fully and to increase quality to decrease quantity. In contrast, consumerism, our culture of buying more and more, encourages accumulation, often at the expense of both our well-being and the planet. So to explore this further, we're going to watch a short documentary called The Story of Stuff. It breaks down how consumerism impacts the environment and why rethinking our habits matter. But just a small caveat before we get into it. This video is over 15 years old. So while the examples, the language, and the tone may feel a little bit dated, the core message remains highly relevant, which is why we chose to still play it. If anything, the issues it highlights have only intensified. So just keep in mind that some of the facts and figures mentioned are much higher in 2025. And as you watch, please reflect on your own possessions, how much you have, what you truly need, and how your consumption choices connect to the world around you.
Of these, I got a little obsessed with mine. In fact, I got a little obsessed with all my stuff. Have you ever wondered where all the stuff we buy comes from and where it goes when we throw it out? I couldn't stop wondering about that, so I looked it up. And what the textbook said is that stuff moves through a system from extraction to production to distribution to consumption to disposal. All together, it's called the materials economy. Well, I looked into it a little bit more. In fact, I spent 10 years traveling the world, tracking where our stuff comes from and where it goes. And you know what I found out? That is not the whole story. There is a lot missing from this explanation. For one thing, this system looks like it's fine. No problem. But the truth is, it's a system in crisis. And the reason it's a system in crisis is it's a linear system and we live on a finite planet. And you cannot run a linear system on a finite planet indefinitely. Every step along the way, this system is interacting with the real world. In real life, it's not happening on a blank white page. It's interacting with societies, cultures, economies, the environment. And all along the way, it's bumping up against limits. Limits we don't see here because the diagram is incomplete. So let's go back through. Let's fill in some of the blanks and see what's missing. Well, one of the most important things that's missing is people. Yes, people. People live and work all along this system. And some people in this system matter a little more than others. Some have a little more say. Who are they? Well, let's start with the government. Now, my friends tell me I should use a tank to symbolize the government, and that's true in many countries and increasingly in our own. After all, more than 50% of our federal tax money is now going to the military. But I'm using a person to symbolize the government because I hold true to the vision and values the government should be of the people, by the people, for the people. It's the government's job to watch out for us, to take care of us. That's their job. Then along came the corporation. Now, the reason the corporation looks bigger than the government is that the corporation is bigger than the government. Of the 100 largest economies on Earth now, 51 are corporations. And as the corporation has grown in size and power, we've seen a little change in the government where they're a little more concerned in making sure everything's working out for those guys than for us. Okay, so let's see what else is missing from this picture. We'll start with extraction, which is a fancy word for natural resource exploitation, which is a fancy word for trashing the planet. What this looks like is we chop down the trees, we blow up mountains to get the metals inside, we use up all the water, and we wipe out the animals. So here we are running up against our first limit. We are running out of resources. We are using too much stuff. Now, I know this can be hard to hear, but it's the truth, so we've got to deal with it. In the past 3 decades alone, 1/3 of the planet's natural resource base has been consumed. Gone. We are cutting and mining and hauling and trashing the place so fast that we're undermining the planet's very ability for people to live here. Where I live, in the United States, we have less than 4% of our original forests left. 40% of the waterways have become undrinkable. And our problem is not just that we're using too much stuff, but we're using more than our share. We have 5% of the world's population, but we're using 30% of the world's resources and creating 30% of the world's waste. If everybody consumed at US rates, we would need 3 to 5 planets. And you know what? We've only got 1. So my country's response to this limitation is simply to go take somebody else's. This is the third world, which some would say is another word for our stuff that somehow got on somebody else's land. So what does that look like? The same thing, trashing the place. 75% of global fisheries now are fished at or beyond capacity. 80% of the planet's original forests are gone. In the Amazon alone, we're losing 2,000 trees a minute. That is 7 football fields a minute. And what about the people who live here? Well, according to these guys, they don't own these resources, even if they've been living there for generations. They don't own the means of production, and they're not buying a lot of stuff. And in this system, if you don't own or buy a lot of stuff, you don't have value. So next, the materials move to production. And what happens there is we use energy to mix toxic chemicals in with the natural resources to make toxic contaminated products. There are over 100,000 synthetic chemicals in use in commerce today. Only a handful of them have even been tested for health impacts, and none have been tested for synergistic health impacts. That means when they interact with all the other chemicals we're exposed to every day. So we don't know the full impact on health and the environment of all these toxic chemicals, but we do know one thing: toxics in, toxics out. As long as we keep putting toxics into our industrial production systems, we're going to keep getting toxics in the stuff that we bring into our homes and workplaces and schools, and our bodies. Like BFRs, brominated flame retardants, they're a chemical that make things more fireproof, but they are super toxic. They're a neurotoxin. That means toxic to the brain. What are we even doing using a chemical like this? Yet we put it in our computers, our appliances, couches, mattresses, even some pillows. In fact, we take our pillows, we douse them in a neurotoxin, then we bring them home and put our heads on them for 8 hours a night to sleep. Now, I don't know, but it seems to me in this country with so much potential, we could think of a better way to stop our heads from catching on fire at night. Now, these toxics build up the food chain and concentrate in our bodies. Do you know what is the food at the top of the food chain with the highest level of many toxic contaminants? Human breast milk. That means that we've reached a point where the smallest members of our societies, our babies, are getting the highest lifetime dose of toxic chemicals from breastfeeding from their mothers. Is that not an incredible violation? Breastfeeding must be the most fundamental human act of nurturing. It should be sacred and safe. Now, breastfeeding is still best, and mothers should definitely keep breastfeeding, but we should protect it. They should protect it. I thought they were looking out for us. And of course, the people who bear the biggest brunt of these toxic chemicals are the factory workers, many of whom are women of reproductive age. They're working with reproductive toxins, carcinogens, and more. Now I ask you, what kind of woman of reproductive age would work in a job exposed to reproductive toxins except for a woman with no other option? And that's one of the beauties of this system. The erosion of local environments and economies here ensures a constant supply of people with no other option. Globally, 200,000 people a day are moving from environments that have sustained them for generations into cities, many to live in slums, looking for work, no matter how toxic that work may be. So you see, it's not just resources that are wasted along this system, but people too. Whole communities get wasted. Yep, toxics in, toxics out. A lot of the toxics leave the factories in products, but even more leave as byproducts or pollution. And it's a lot of pollution. In the US, our industry admits to releasing over 4 billion pounds of toxic chemicals a year. And it's probably a lot more because that's only what they admit. So that's another limit, because yuck, who wants to look at and smell 4 billion pounds of toxic chemicals a year? So what do? Move the dirty factories overseas, pollute someone else's land. But surprise, a lot of that pollution is coming right back at us, carried by wind currents. So what happens after all these natural resources are turned into products? Well, it moves here for distribution. Now, distribution means selling all the toxic contaminated junk as quickly as possible. The goal here is to keep the prices down, keep the people buying, and keep the inventory moving. How do they keep the prices down? Well, they don't pay the store workers very much, and they skimp on health insurance every time they can. It's all about externalizing the costs. What that means is that the real costs of making stuff aren't captured in the price. In other words, we aren't paying for the stuff we buy. I was thinking about this the other day. I was walking to work and I wanted to listen to the news, so I popped into a Radio Shack to buy a radio. I found this cute little green radio for $4.99. I was standing there in line to buy this thing, and I was thinking, how could $4.99 possibly capture the cost of making this radio and getting it into my hands? The metal was probably mined in South Africa. The petroleum was probably drilled in Iraq. The plastics were probably produced in China. And maybe the whole thing was assembled by some 15-year-old in a maquiladora in Mexico. $4.99 wouldn't even pay the rent for the shelf space it occupied until I came along, let alone part of the staff guy's salary who helped me pick it out, or the multiple ocean cruises and truck rides pieces of this radio went on. That's how I realized I didn't pay for the radio. So who did pay? Well, these people paid with the loss of their natural resource space. These people paid with the loss of their clean air, with increasing asthma and cancer rates. Kids in the Congo paid with their future. 30% of the kids in part of the Congo have dropped out of school to mine coltan, a metal we need for our cheap and disposable electronics. These people even paid by having to cover their own health insurance. All along this system, people pitched in so I could get this radio for $4.99. And none of these contributions are recorded in any accounts book. That's what I mean by the company owners externalized the true costs of production. And that brings us to the golden arrow of consumption. This is the heart of the system, the engine that drives it. It is so important that protecting this arrow has become the top priority for both of these guys. That's why after 9/11, when our country was in shock, and President Bush could have suggested any number of appropriate things, to grieve, to pray, to hope. No, he said to shop, to shop. We have become a nation of consumers. Our primary identity has become that of being consumers, not mothers, teachers, farmers, but consumers. The primary way that our value is measured and demonstrated is by how much we contribute to this arrow, how much we consume. And do we? We shop and shop and shop, keep the materials flowing, and flow they do. Guess what percentage of total materials flow through this system is still in product or use 6 months after their date of sale in North America? 50%? 20%? No, 1%. 1%. In other words, 99% of the stuff we harvest, mine, process, transport, 99% of the stuff we run through the system is trashed within 6 months. Now, how can we run a planet with that level of materials throughput? It wasn't always like this. The average US person now consumes twice as much as they did 50 years ago. Ask your grandma. In her day, stewardship and resourcefulness and thrift were valued. So how did this happen? Well, it didn't just happen. It was designed. Shortly after World War II, these guys were figuring out how to ramp up the economy. Retailing analyst Victor Lebeau articulated the solution that's become the norm for the whole system. He said, our enormously productive economy demands that we make consumption our way of life, that we convert the buying and use of goods into rituals, that we seek our spiritual satisfaction, our ego satisfaction in consumption. We need things consumed, burned up, replaced, and discarded at an ever-accelerating rate. President Eisenhower's Council of Economic Advisors chairman said that the American economy's ultimate purpose is to produce more consumer goods. More consumer goods? Our ultimate purpose? Not provide healthcare or education or safe transportation or sustainability or justice? Consumer goods? How did they get us to jump on board this program so enthusiastically? Well, two of their most effective strategies are planned obsolescence and perceived obsolescence. Planned obsolescence is another word for designed for the dump. It means they actually make stuff to be useless as quickly as possible, so we'll chuck it and buy a new one. It's obvious with things like plastic bags and coffee cups, but now it's even big stuff. Mops, DVDs, cameras, barbecues even, everything. Even computers. Have you noticed that when you buy a computer now, the technology is changing so fast that in just a couple of years, it's actually an impediment to communication? I was curious about this, so I opened up a big desktop computer to see what was inside. And I found out that the piece that changes each year is just a tiny little piece in the corner. But you can't just change that one piece because each new version is a different shape. So you gotta chuck the whole thing and buy a new one. So I was reading industrial design journals from the 1950s when planned obsolescence was really catching on. These designers are so open about it. They actually discuss how fast can they make stuff break that still leaves the consumer having enough faith in the product to go out and buy another one. It was so intentional. But stuff cannot break fast enough to keep this arrow afloat. So there's also perceived obsolescence. Now, perceived obsolescence convinces us to throw away stuff that is still perfectly useful. How do they do that? Well, they change the way the stuff looks. So if you bought your stuff a couple of years ago, everyone can tell that you haven't contributed to this arrow recently. And since the way we demonstrate our value is contributing to this arrow, it can be embarrassing. Like, I've had the same fat white computer monitor on my desk for 5 years. My coworker just got a new computer. She has a flat, shiny, sleek monitor. It matches her computer, it matches her phone, even her pen stand. She looks like she's driving in Spaceship Central, and I look like I've got a washing machine on my desk. Fashion is another prime example of this. Have you ever wondered why women's shoe heels go from fat one year to skinny the next to fat to skinny? It's not because there's some debate about which heel structure is the most healthy for women's feet. It's because wearing fat heels in a skinny heel year shows everybody that you haven't contributed to that arrow as recently, so you're not as valuable as that person in skinny heels next to you, or more likely in some ad. It's to keep us buying new shoes. Advertisements and media in general plays a big role in this. Each of us in the US is targeted with over 3,000 advertisements a day. We see more advertisements in 1 year than people 50 years ago saw in a lifetime. And if you think about it, what's the point of an ad except to make us unhappy with what we have? So 3,000 times a day, we're told our hair is wrong, our skin is wrong, our clothes are wrong, our furniture is wrong, our car is wrong, we are wrong, but it can all be made right if we just go shopping. Media also helps by hiding all of this and all of this. So the only part of the materials economy we see is the shopping. The extraction, production, and disposal all happens outside of our field of vision. So in the US, we have more stuff than ever before, but polls show that our national happiness is actually declining. Our national happiness peaked in the 1950s, the same time that this consumption mania exploded. Interesting coincidence. I think I know why. We have more stuff, but we have less time for the things that really make us happy. Friends, family, leisure time. We're working harder than ever. Some analysts say we have less leisure time than any time since feudal society. And do you know what the two main activities are that we do with the scant leisure time we have? Watch TV and shop. In the US, we spend 3 to 4 times as many hours shopping as our counterparts in Europe do. So we're in this ridiculous situation where we go to work, maybe 2 jobs even, and we come home and we're exhausted. So we plop down on our new couch and watch TV, and the commercials tell us you suck. So you got to go to the mall to buy something to feel better, and then you got to go to work more to pay for the stuff you just bought. So you come home and you're more tired. So you sit down and you watch more TV, and it tells you to go to the mall again. And we're on this crazy work, watch, spend treadmill, and we could just stop. So in the end, what happens to all the stuff we buy anyway? At this rate of consumption, it can't fit into our houses, even though the average house size has doubled in this country since the 1970s. It all goes out in the garbage. And that brings us to disposal. This is the part of the materials economy we all know the most because we have to haul the junk out to the curb ourselves. Each of us in the United States makes 4.5 pounds of garbage a day. That's twice what we each made 30 years ago. All of this garbage either gets dumped in a landfill, which is just a big hole in the ground, or if you're really unlucky, first it's burned in an incinerator and then dumped in the landfill. Either way, they both pollute the air, land, water, and don't forget, change the climate. Incineration is really bad. Remember those toxics back in the production stage? Well, burning the garbage releases the toxics up into the air. Even worse, it makes new super toxics, like dioxin. Dioxin is the most toxic man-made substance known to science, and incinerators are the #1 source of dioxin. That means that we could stop the #1 source of the most toxic man-made substance known just by stopping burning the trash. We could stop it today. Now, some companies don't want to deal with building landfills and incinerators here, so they just export the disposal too. What about recycling? Does recycling help? Yes, recycling helps. Recycling reduces the garbage at this end, and it reduces the pressure to mine and harvest new stuff at this end. Yes, 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 we should all recycle. But recycling is not enough. Recycling will never be enough, for a couple reasons. First, the waste coming out of our houses is just the tip of the iceberg. For every 1 garbage can of waste you put out on the curb, 70 garbage cans of waste were made upstream just to make the junk in that 1 garbage can you put out on the curb. So even if we could recycle 100% of the waste coming out of our households, it doesn't get to the core of the problems. Also, much of the garbage can't be recycled, either because it contains too many toxics or it's designed not to be recyclable in the first place. Like those juice packs, where they have layers of metal and paper and plastic all smushed together, you can never separate those for true recycling. So you see, it is a system in crisis. All along the way, we're bumping up against limits. From changing climate to declining happiness, it's just not working. But the good thing about such an all-pervasive problem is there are so many points of intervention. There are people working here on saving forests, here on clean production, labor rights, fair trade, conscious consuming, blocking landfills and incinerators, and very importantly, taking back our government, so that it really is by the people, for the people. All of this work is critically important. But things really start moving when we see the connections, when we see the big picture. When people all along this system get united, we can reclaim and transform this whole linear system into something new, a system that doesn't waste resources or people. You see, what we really need to chuck is that old school throwaway mindset. There's a new school of thinking about this stuff, and it's based on sustainability and equity. Things like green chemistry, zero waste, closed loop production, renewable energy, local living economies. It's already started. Some say it's unrealistic, too idealistic that it can't happen. I say the ones who are unrealistic are those who think that we can continue with the old way. They're dreaming. Remember, that old way didn't just happen. It wasn't like gravity that we just have to live with. People created it, and we're people too. So let's create something new. There's a lot of information on this website about groups doing incredible work. Click around, get involved.
Okay, so I hope you all found that video interesting and that you maybe learned something new. I know she did talk a lot about the negative impacts of consumerism and only mentioned a few solutions at the end. So I would encourage you all to Google the video, The Story of Solutions, which is done by the same production company, which does go into more detail about what can be done. So we're now actually going to move into our dynamics. And we're actually going to do an activity called the Letting Go Challenge. And it's an activity that we came up with to really just bring the idea of Aparigraha into our own lives. So the first step is to find something to let go of. So I'd love to give you all about 2 minutes to just take a moment to look around your space and find one item that you no longer need. It could be a piece of clothing you haven't worn in over a year, a book you've never gotten around to reading, a gadget that's just collecting dust, anything that's just sitting there unused. So if you could just go find that and then bring that item back with you, and we'll just take 2 minutes first to do that. Okay, it looks like most of us are all back. So since we're a small group today, I think we'll just stay in this room. We don't need to go into breakout rooms. And so what we wanted to do was just ask you a couple of questions, and give you a couple of minutes just to reflect on it by yourselves. And then we'll have you unmute yourselves to share any thoughts that you'd like to discuss with the wider group. So the first question is, why was it hard or easy to pick something to let go of? So thinking about, is it something that you were keeping for perhaps a future need? Is it something that is sentimental and means something to you and something that you knew that you wanted to keep? So the first is, why was it hard or easy to pick something to let go? The second question is, how does this item own me? Then the third question is based on the video that we just watched. So what are the environmental impacts of the item that you chose? And along the same lines, do you have an idea of what you could do with it now? Could you donate it, repurpose it, sell it? And the final question is, how can we practice letting go before things pile up? Okay, so I think I've given you all a couple of minutes to think on these questions. Would anyone like to share their answers to these questions or share sort of what item they picked?
Hariom, I could share some thoughts. I actually, you would have noticed I didn't get up from my seat to look for anything because I'm actually packing to go to India next week to join Vivekji on the yatra. And I've already packed clothes that I don't need, which I need to donate. And that's a usual practice that every 6 months I'm going to India and I pack not just for myself, but I look into my children's closet, my husband. Everybody has at least 4 pieces of clothes, which are not so used, but they're so bored that they don't want to wear it again. So that is what I packed already in my suitcase, which will be donated. I must say that there's one piece of suit which is very old, but I somehow like it. It has some memories attached to it, and that's why I just didn't want to let go. But this time I thought it's dated, it needs to go. So I have packed it. And I feel good that, when I go to India, I give it to my sister, and she lives in Delhi in an apartment building. And within minutes, these things are taken up by people who I know will use it. Because I remember last time I took some suits, and she has like a massage person who comes to massage her every weekend, and I saw that lady wearing that suit and it looked so good on her, like, oh wow, this is looking so beautiful. So it feels good to me that when I take things home, they are put to use. And how can we practice letting go before things pile up? I must acknowledge that once I turned 45, I realized that I had so much stuff in the house, including clothing, shoes, sandals, makeup, jewelry, that I made a very conscious promise to myself that I'm not going to buy any more of this stuff for any reason. So my children, my husband, they know that they are not supposed to gift me any non consumable item. So all they know they can give is flowers or chocolates, Lin chocolates only. Hurry up.
I picked up all these different folders that there were thousands and thousands of them printed at work that are getting thrown away. And I just, well, I didn't bring thousands of them. I brought 30 of them, but they're just still lying around. It's like what career plan a kindergarten could make on a folder, and then the first grader, and then the second grader. And I don't know what to do with these folders, but there's a part of me is like, oh, they're not going to get used. They're going to go so much waste, and there's so much carbon footprint, and I don't know what kind of ink they used. And I think I just need to recycle them. I don't think any choice. How much of these folders can we use at Bal Vihar? We can't. There is just eventually just have to throw it out. I don't think it's compostable. So I've been holding on to things, not knowing how to repurpose them or what to do with them, or lots of books that are become a decoration. I know I'm not going to read them. Nobody at the library wants them. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, this is Neelam. Sorry, I don't have my video on. I'm too tired. So how does this none of my items own me. I'm kind of like how Kamiji had expressed. So from the beginning only, I have been doing that from many, many years. And I used to take two suitcases, like two suitcases full, but now like I'm here and I've lived here so many years in DC. So I just give stuff away immediately. So, but I still have a lot of stuff because of now I'm living by myself. So I'm already working on it whenever I have the energy. I get a box ready. So right now, if I could show you, there are 7 boxes of books lying in the carport to go out on Tuesday. So, Juiji, if you want, you can just donate it. I've been donating to Purple Heart and blind something, but I also buy from the blind people. Like bulbs and all, they charge for 4 bulbs, they charge $25, but it's like their income and all, they make. So like that they have, but that's not our platform right now. But I do donate. And then the Indian stuff, I just donate to the temple, like to the like Durga temple or to our Chinmaya Somnath, like the dishes and all, because now I don't need all that. So like the spoon, ladles, and karchi and all we say. So like that. Like even my wedding sari, 5 people wore it. Can you imagine? Like in India only, I left it. I told all the relatives, whoever gets married, just use it. And I'm not rich or anything, but I always did like that. So like hand to mouth kind of a thing. It's really freeing. So, Hari Om, that's what I wanted to say. Thank you so much for this thing that you all have. The loving earth. I gave plants also to a lot of people my whole life. Jasmine and basil. क्या बोलते हैं? Tulsi. Holy basil. Then pudina, thyme, rosemary. And I wanted to tell about rosemary. If you have rosemary, I gave all mine away, but I still get some, like, from somebody. So you can put it in your vase, and it helps in your memory, 75%. Like the scientists have done that research. So you can put like in a vase, rosemary, like, and it takes care of the acetylcholine in your brain, so it helps with the memory. So I just wanted to share that too. Sorry. Okay, thank you. Hari Om.
I wanted to share something as well. So I have a lot of I guess I'm in a college like apartment right now. So at home is where all of the the clothes and books and everything that's waiting to be donated for years is currently living in that room at home. It's like it's replaced what I would have been living as, but all of that is living instead of me at home. So, but over here, I have all the things that I got for college, but after graduating in 6 months or 5 months, like I'll no longer be a college student. So I don't know how much like all of this. Like I have a shirt with me that's like has like my major and university and everything on it, which is all great. And I have like 3 or 4 or 5 shirts like this that I've gotten. But I don't know like how much will it really matter when I'm no longer like a university student. And same at home. All my high school shirts are at home, and there's like 8 or 10 shirts, and all like the yearbooks and everything. It's like who's gonna wear all that and read all of that and look at all of that? So I don't know. Like so I think I have to like after graduating high school, who's gonna like, care what high after graduating college, who cares what high school you went to? So I think I'll need to like what do you do with yearbooks and have like 10 of them? Who's gonna read that? I mean, at least a shirt, someone may wear a shirt even if it has no applicability to them. So, and they may, if they need a shirt, they will. So at least that's one thing I can do with all my bookshelves of Harry Potter books and closets of Taekwondo uniforms and all my art sets that I was supposed to get to at some point. But I've gotten a lot of gifts. Like this past Christmas, I didn't like I was telling everyone, please don't give me material gifts. Like if you want, give me cash and I'll donate it on your behalf. But I was like, don't give me anything. They like a few still went out of their way to get me like speaker systems and things like that. And they're all like unopened. I've like left them untouched. So I don't know what to do with things that I don't want to use but have been given. It's just not easy to like return and so on. So like maybe if y'all could have any suggestions on things like that. Um, like um like occasions that everyone else thinks are special. Like I got way too much for 21st birthday that apparently was so special, but I told it's not that special. But everyone got like, oh, you were born in this year. You're like they got a cup with my birth year. I was like, yeah, what? So maybe any suggestions on fancy gift regifting or donating, what to do with that, as well as general gifting, and also how to like actually um, enforce a no material gift policy when it seems so counter uh, counterculture. It was almost like um, it was like off-putting for many. So how to bring that in a way that people can understand.
Anyone has suggestions for Sudarshan? Feel free to maybe put it in chat if you
Har-
really unmute and share.
Hariom. So I was actually, we were thinking of having during the fundraiser event, a silent auction solution for Chinmay Mission Ashram. So Himanti is helping coordinate that. So if you send the picture of those items, we can probably put it in there on your behalf. Thank you.
Hariom. So in recently, what we did with some of the things was we collected gently used saris and kids' clothes, and actually had a fundraiser at Chinmaya last Sunday. It was pretty good. We did have some new saris as well. We did as a fundraiser for our local firefighters. So we did have a lot of people donated happily saris. We had to do some filtering and making it look good and things like that. But we were happy to see a lot of people looking to buy. They did buy it, but it was not used, and they were happy to buy it. So it was a good thing to see that people are willing to buy used ones. But a lot of times, like most of you, I also have a problem with. For me, it's a thing about SAT books. Somebody has given my kids SAT books that my kids are not going to use. I don't know where to donate it, and I don't like to trash it. So I have a lot of things like that in our house, which I have kept it looking for because I just don't like putting it in the Goodwill or Indian clothes as well. I don't want to even torn clothes. I have kept it for green drop or something, which I'm trying to figure out. But it's not easy for me to trash it, and a lot of I don't know where are all the places where we could give these things. So I'm holding on to a lot of things like that to find where it can be used properly, not just the donation bins, but where somebody can use it properly.
Sorry, I used to have that feeling, but you can put it in Green Drop and Goodwill. It's good because people buy it, like crafts people and all. And if they need to throw it, then they'll just throw it. They don't, they do use it. And Green Drop, like you can tell them if you're not dropping it in the bin, you just call the green 1-800 number for Green Drop. And that's how I donate to Purple Heart. So in there are 5 different charities. So Purple Heart, and for the blind, I forget what they call, and 3 more. So you can do that. And then Goodwill is the other one. And then a lot of local in our area, a lot of local. So I'm in Fairfax, Virginia. So a lot of local like churches and all, they also take, your stuff. Like you just have to fill in the things. But Shri Rekha ji, you can do that. They, don't hesitate. I know what you, and the sad books and all, everything, because, like in the mountainous areas or so many areas in Pennsylvania and all that, they don't have access to all this stuff. They really don't. I've been physically to those places. I used to take stuff like the Indian clothes and all that.
The one part that I have learned about Goodwill, that out of the money they make, they really run amazing programs for inner city youth and young adults. So after a point when I donated, I'm like, it will at least get used for something meaningful. So that part I have reduced it. I can't reduce the carbon footprint of the stuff I bought or somebody else's bought, but at least it will be used by maybe by somebody, or at least it will benefit the organization who's running good programs. So thank you, Neelamji. It makes sense. So the very last part, we have just 4 minutes left, and appreciate all the conversations. What we would like us to do is very briefly, I'm going to show us a couple of things that we did related to dedicating our goals last time. So I find myself, I think about these things, but unless I make a commitment, it's harder. And these things pile up like rest of the things that I want to do this for Mother Earth and do this for Mother Earth. Instead, really committing to one simple, small, measurable, specific dedication is helpful. So last month, many of us, I think 29 of us did this. We set different types of goals. Most of us set ultra processed food goals, some of us plastic, water, composting related goals. And I don't think many of us have gotten a chance to go and mark our progress in there. So today, if we could take a moment and mark our progress, half of us haven't started the goal. Maybe we haven't marked it. Half of us are making a progress. One of us has achieved the goal. So I'm going to sort of put it into chat. Maybe I already did, I don't remember. But sort of going through and marking the progress would be helpful, and thinking about one specific goal that we could have for Aparigraha, non-possessing. Based on the reflection you have done, the video we have seen, and what we have heard Vivekji, use something really fully, reduce the quantity, increase the quality, reduce our attachment, low chemicals. So when you go into this sheet, find your name in column 1 if you had written one last month. Write a progress for your last month's goal and set up a dedication for this month, and go ahead and mark whether you have already started that dedication, or if you are planning to start it later.
Juiji, I have a question. So for the I did the seeds and the things for the herbs and the plants. So do we have to continue charting? I mean, not charting, what do you call it? Documenting it the whole year, or just for January we close that goal?
It's up to you.
Oh,
Up to you if you want to have the same goal for February. I am
no,
trying
no, no.
different goals, I'm
Yeah,
trying
I'll do
different
different.
goals.
Yeah,
Yeah. If you think you have achieved it, you're doing it couple of months,
yeah.
just say it, you have achieved it. It's totally up to you. But it's we holding ourselves accountable.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in January itself, I can write, instead of writing progressing, I can just write achieved.
Yes,
Or when
yes.
we-
If you
yeah,
feel
okay.
so you have achieved it, mark it
Yeah,
achieved,
I'm
and
going to
create a
continue
February
also.
goal.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And make a new. Thank you. Sorry to take time.
So everyone, please keep working on our dedications. That's our way to keep doing it. If you're setting up a personal dedication, that's awesome. If you're setting up a more community dedication and advocacy goal, that's even stronger, much more needed many times. So think about our goals. There are a couple of announcements related to upcoming things. Our next workshop, again, first Sunday of March, Vivekji and Sumanji, both of them are facilitating it. And it is going to be on Brahmacharya. So that's the next Maharishi Patanjali's Yama to focus on. And we might be going into very much like the all techie stuff. What do we do with our tech stuff? So that's next time's topic. And many of us have most heard about the efforts for equality. Please do sign up for contemplation and collection. A lot of food wastage. So it's an opportunity to share to people who don't have it. And California Fire Foundation's fundraiser that is going on. It's a very earth-centric need right now. So if you haven't gotten a chance to donate and haven't gotten a chance to sign up. So those were the announcements. I'll end with an Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.